So check it out on the TowerCast. The next episode of the WatchTower, it's my turn, you sons of bitches.
Bring it.
We're gonna do something a little different. Yeah, we're gonna do a little different. I suggested to the guys that for my next pick, we do the Before Trilogy by Richard Linklater, starring Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy.
Hell yeah.
And it's 3 films, but they really are just one big film, I think. And I want to see what people think. We couldn't just do Before Sunrise.
Hey, man.
Dude, what's up? What are you doing here, man? What's going on?
Dude, I had to watch the Before series. They're screening all of it.
Man, they're screening the whole trilogy, right? This is crazy. This is crazy.
Dude, like, I mean, everything about this film is just amazing. Like, it's so good.
I love it, man. I gotta watch it at least once.
Damn it!
They missed me. It's clear.
Is that?
Yo!
Castro!
Hey!
Come here, man. Come over here. What are you doing?
What's up, guys?
Yeah. Oh, man. What's up, man?
Yeah!
We just bumped into each other, man. Craziest thing. Yeah.
Oh, what's up, buddy?
Yo, sit down. What are you doing?
Thank you. What are you guys doing here?
Well, you know, when they screen the gems, you gotta come in. We gotta make it out.
You guys kept talking about it, and I only saw the first 2, so...
Shots.
Oh, the third one is her girlfriend. You're in for a treat, let me tell you.
The dialogue.
Dialogue. Linklater outdoes himself with everything, but this holds a very special place in my heart. You guys know this.
It's beautiful.
Oh,
Just
man.
everything about this film, they executed it so
They can't roll the projector fast enough, man.
well. Oh, man.
I gotta ask. Did any of you show up to the podcast recording last time?
No, I couldn't make it.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
we bumped into each other and we watched Cable Guy?
That's right, we watched
yeah,
the Cable Guy.
Yeah. No, now I get it. But
You, Carl?
True.
Oh, no, man. I had too much to do that day. You know, just stayed home, fixed the projector,
Oh, that's good. I'm
laid some tile or something.
It'd be bad if just one of us went.
Right.
No, I'm glad nobody went.
Yeah.
That's good.
You went, didn't you?
All right, maybe I went for a little bit. Maybe I got to the studio and the mics were there and the cameras were there.
I was in Vegas and my
Yeah, we agreed on it. But what do you? It's like before summer. We agreed to be at the train station. But it's fine.
I just thought nobody was gonna go, and then I bumped into Castro, and
I wasn't surprised that we were covering 3 films in one
carrying the
podcast.
cable
No,
guy.
that has nothing to do with it.
I'm sorry. My
that's-
bad.
Listen, it's post-pandemic. We're back at the cinema. My best friends here, and we're gonna watch them Before Trilogy. I can't complain, man. We didn't get to record the podcast, but at least we get to screen the film.
And all 3, right?
All three of us are here. So. Can't complain. It's 3 of us here.
Wait. 3 of us? Where's the big guy?
I'm sure he's out devising his master plan for the next day.
Yeah.
We'll bump it. We'll get in touch. here, man. We're here.
Sounds good.
Screen the films. Oh, I think the film started.
I think we know what we got to do.
Yep.
I think we're back.
We're back. We're back.
We're back.
I think we're back, man.
We're back.
We're back. Here we go. Two.
1.
Welcome back to the WatchTower podcast, the TowerCast Network's film review podcast. We've been on a hiatus. I hope you enjoyed the little skit we did for you.
Yes, we have.
With a lot of good reason. But first, we want to toast to being back. That's exactly what we're doing here right now.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers,
Guys.
cheers, cheers.
To the team.
Cheers to being back.
Cheers to Austin.
Making
We
sure
love
we're
you.
sounding great out there. And what's even more exciting is we're cheering
Sponsored by Pepsi.
Pepsi. We're cheering that we're back on the podcast, but more so we're in the new studio, guys.
We are.
We're finally
noticed?
here. We changed the scenery just a little bit, but we're in the new studio.
This is it. I mean, we've had this for a while now,
a little bit.
but we haven't used it.
Right.
Yeah, much like me.
Well, bottoms up.
But some to
Cheers,
everybody
guys.
out there.
So glad to be back. I think we should probably catch up the audience about what we've been up to a little bit. We can't divulge too much.
Yeah. This
But-
is our grand kickoff to, being back on the cast.
Yeah.
For everything.
What is it? Is it season 3 or 4?
This is
I want to say 3. Right.
stop keeping track of things while we're trying to
I
drink.
like it. I just like keeping track. You know
Well,
how many
it's
episodes.
a funky thing because I know if you guys have kept up with us, we thank you and we appreciate it. But I know you guys have probably kept up with the TowerCast. We've done a few TowerCasts, as opposed to WatchTower.
Definitely.
We've done, did a great episode with Elizabeth Abayan that was
Oh,
fantastic.
yes.
Coming up.
Coming up. I don't know which one's releasing first, probably this one, right?
Yeah.
And then we did a great episode. We did a great few episodes of the TowerCast. I mean, everything from Las Cruces, but pretty much
Yeah, I
so
was
now.
gonna say from
So,
the last cruises.
yeah, so we did TowerCast intermittently, but we're back on the WatchTower talking about cinema, doing what we love the most, right? The skit wasn't a joke to a certain degree. The whole plan, the whole intention was to do a before trilogy episode. And that was my pick, and I obsessed about it because during the pandemic, I finally got to see it. This film, this trilogy of films that Austin had bought me maybe a couple years before on the Criterion box set, and I was like, it stood on my shelf for 2 years.
Wait. Austin saw it before you?
No. He'd heard that I'd been wanting to see this film.
Oh,
Everybody and their mother was telling me, you gotta watch Before Trilogy. You
Yeah.
gotta watch it. My brother, a couple of buddies, friends who love cinema who kind of know my taste were like, how have you not seen the Before Trilogy? And I'm like, I'll get around to it. Fun fact, we saw it during the pandemic. Sandra and I had just gotten married. Interesting perspective being when you just get married and you're watching the Before Trilogy.
Especially
We
the
just got
first one.
married, and we screened all 3 of them back to back. Boom, 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 all 3 of them, and it was a really pleasant experience, man. It was fantastic, and mind you, the pandemic has just passed, right? It's been about a year since I first saw it. Maybe I've seen it maybe 3 times since the whole trilogy.
Yeah.
I screened it for you guys partially, and then Austin and I screened but I've seen it at least 3 times since the first watching.
Yeah, no,
which is
same
interesting
here.
perspective.
Like after
we watched it the first time, I remember there was just something so special about it. And I mean, the tidbit is that you were planning a film, and that was going to be a lot of the inspiration for the film. And you screened it for me, and I mean, after that, it was just there was so much magic to it, you know, and so much to look into and all that. And we never covered it for the podcast. It was always set up. It was always set up that we were going to like, oh, that's the next episode, and then just the next episode got pushed back. We made a few films.
We did make a few films.
We made a lot of connections. A lot of great stuff for us. But
so the biggest thing I guess I should divulge a little bit about that. And if you haven't guessed it yet, you're watching the WatchTower podcast on the TowerCast Network.
Tiny poster.
And we're going to be talking about Richard Linklater's The Before Trilogy today. But to give you guys a little bit of background, we've been developing. That's what we've really been doing in Tower. And it's kind of one of our interesting specialties, which I really love about Tower. We've been doing nothing but developing. That means developing series, films, shorts, features. We always kind of do it in the background, right? That's what any filmmaker does. You're shooting something, you're developing the rest next. But we decided that if we were ever going to get into some heavy development, that the podcast would take a little bit of a back seat, and that's really what it turned into. We don't regret it. We miss doing this. We missed it so much, but we developed some great series that I can't say too much about. The only thing I can say is that we've taken them to pitch, and the meetings have been going really great. and we're really grateful for that, and have taken the next steps into doing that. So that's why we've been away for so long. I think we zoned in on a year since the last WatchTower, right?
Yeah, I looked at the date, and it was 2021. I thought it was either September or November.
Yeah, so just about a year.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it was November. I think it might have been November. But, I mean, we're back, and I couldn't be happier. This is my favorite thing to do. Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do is to watch cinema and talk about it with my friends, and this is terrific. So, the Before Trilogy. I want to get into what you just said, because naturally, like we always do, you say, hey, I watched this film, you guys got to watch it. I'm that guy. I'm really I need to screen this film for you. But with the Before Trilogy, the law's right. I wrote a script. It's a walk and talk, 25 pager.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make this film. I was obsessed with this. Was going to be my next film after the Silent Trilogy, and it's very much very, 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 very much inspired by the Before Trilogy. And I hope that doesn't turn people off. Usually people say that and it's like, oh, he's just ripping this thing off. No, I wanted this to be
influenced.
Yeah, definitely inspired by and since then I allows naturally he's my DP for everything he'd like to be my DP in, because I always love having him back.
Everything. And
I had Costa read the script as well, and I was like, I want to get your take on this, and Austin naturally started developing, and then we had to take a step back because we want to produce a couple other films in front of that one. Not that that we're a little more leaning towards for resources and budgets and just time. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. So stay tuned for that. But that's really why I screened it for the Lao, and then had already screened it for Austin, and then Costa was like, "Let's get in the mix. We do want to talk about this eventually. I want you guys to see the source."
Did you show me the first one of the what is it, the anthology? Did you show it to me in Alamo, or was it in Austin's backyard?
It was in Alamo. It was at Alamo. Right? Yeah, it was at Alamo that we saw the first. We kind of went back.
That's right.
And I was like, "Oh, dude, it's perfect."
But
they only showed the first one. They only showed
because we did our skit at Alamo. Which kind of brings it back for us.
It did bring it back. I mean, it was before Sunrise. It's the first one. Gosh, man, and it was very special to see that on the big screen. It's such a terrific picture.
Before I forget, who was the nice person who let us into Alamo so we could do our skit
today? Yeah. The great staff at Alamo Draft House, the managers Julio and Amy there, and our big shout out to our buddy Chris. Yep. If you don't know Chris, he's a friend of the podcast. He's been on here. We've been on his podcast. Go check out Movies Made himself. He's a projectionist at Alamo Draft House, and
giving him some love.
Has facilitated a ton of this. He's great. So thank you, Chris. He actually set up a really cool pre-show for us to work with for the skit today. But so yeah, shout out to Alamo Draft House. They let us use the spot just to help a couple filmmakers out.
Is Brendan still working there?
He is. I bumped into him literally when I went to go speak to the managers about
Shout out to Brendan and then Scotty.
Scotty. We bumped into Scotty today.
He's the weekend.
Yeah.
Shout out.
But yeah, it was great. It was great. We had a lot of fun. I remember just to touch on that a little bit. The minute we walked into the theater and we were setting up lights or setting up camera, the Lao says, "Man, this feels great." Like, it was two notes. It was the Lao saying, "This feels great. Like, we're back on set. We've been developing so much that it just kind of felt great to be back."
Yeah.
And then the other note was like, "Are we the guys? Are we the guys who just like to make films inside the movie theater?"
Yeah. It's our second time doing it, and we love going to the theater. And
why do I feel like it's been more than that?
What I call it is and I don't think we weren't able to get the shot, but I always call it the Carlos shot, because he loves movies that show the projector in the background and somebody's watching a movie. And every time we watch a movie, and he's like, "Oh, this is one of my favorites," and that's shot comes up. I'm like, "Oh, of course, this is why you like it."
I mean, we're talking about things like Cinema Paradiso,
forget the script,
Hugo, Shawshank Redemption does it.
Shawshank.
Taxi Driver does it. Brother, Where Art Thou does it. Yeah. It's a great shot.
Yeah, it's just fun. I don't know. Being a movie maker person and then being at the movies and making a movie there, I guess it's our own tiny meta. Yeah.
No, it is. And today we actually got to, if I'm not mistaken, the screen we use today, the theater we use today, is the biggest screen in El Paso.
Yeah, the big show.
Comparatively to like the IMAX theater in El Paso, but yeah, it's the big show. Literally,
Alamo Drafthouse East. Big show.
How better to shoot at? But
now to organize us and get us back into the flow of things.
Yeah.
Just so we don't forget tradition.
Right.
We're gonna go into ratings first.
Oh, right.
And then we're gonna go into ratings first, see everybody's perspective, and then afterwards, we'll do the ratings again, see how we all kind of felt about it. But it was your pick. So you choose. Who do you want to go first as far as giving perspective?
Oh, man, perspective. Okay, I want to go to Castro because I think Castro came into it with fresh eyes. Like, he had no skin in the game when it comes to, like, he just was just watching it for enjoyment. And, will I enjoy it? Will I not? I definitely want to go there. Are we taking this, rating the whole trilogy as one, or each film, or how do we want to
so that's a good note.
The whole trilogy? All right,
the good note is that we did watch all three movies.
Right.
And this conversation is not going to be about any specific one. It's going to be about the whole series. Yeah. So, the whole shebang. Castro,
what's my rating?
First impressions.
Yeah. How would you
rating?
Give a 1 to 10 on 3 pieces of cinema that you experience.
Okay, well, first of all, the title alone didn't impress me. Like, it didn't
that's
interest
interesting.
me.
And that's why he's rating it a 2.
What did you think when you hear the Before trilogy, or what do you mean?
No, I just thought about the first movie.
You thought of Star Wars.
Before Sunrise.
Before Sunrise.
Okay. Star Wars.
The only reason I saw it was because of Ethan Hawke.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
It was just one of those things, like, I'm a big Ethan Hawke fan.
Sure.
You know? I saw him in Training Day, but I saw that this film was way before Training Day.
Right, a little bit. So Before Sunrise, to give a little bit of context, 95, the year I was born.
95.
The year Austin and I were born.
Yeah.
95 was the first one, Before Sunrise.
The year my parents thought about maybe having a kid.
Training Day was what, 01?
01?
Something
02,
like that?
Yeah, something around there. But yeah, I mean, I guess the first movie got me, dude. It was just...
Did it?
Beautifully written.
Yeah.
The second one was kind of, I don't know, like, I don't want to give, spoilers.
I
No.
think we're spoiler friendly.
Yeah. We're spoiler friendly.
If you haven't seen the movies,
go watch it, then come back.
Go legally download it.
They're on the Criterion channel. If you have an account with the Criterion channel,
they're on my Vudu. If anybody needs my account information, Austin will put that on the screen.
You can find them virtually anywhere. That's I think HBO Max actually has them right now.
Post the information on the screen.
We'll post the information on the screen.
Post the information on the screen.
Anyways,
The Castro. The first one got you.
The first one got me. The second one was also it was pretty good. But then the third one, we just saw a screen right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was mesmerized, man. I was really shocked because I don't know how you guys feel, but that third film, perfectly captured what was it, a 15-year relationship?
Yeah. No, it was 18.
18.
Yeah,
because it's literally each film is in increments of 9 years.
Yeah.
So 9 years, 94.
9, 18, 20, 9 and 18 years. It's longer than that.
No, because each one was exactly 9 years apart.
You're right.
Yeah, because they even bring it up in the last film
get together a little
that
older,
it's 18. Yeah.
18
Mess
years.
with me.
So yeah, so from like the first film going to the third film,
podcast.
you just see like the downfall of a relationship that just starts off so beautifully and.
Oh jeez.
No, but look.
Well, no,
I know, I don't want to give spoilers.
No, please give spoilers.
Let him have his talking time.
Let
Okay,
the
so
boy
the film
watch.
was a disappointment to your relationship. Go on.
No. So, I guess by the third one, my rating really did go up.
Oh wow. Okay.
I mean, the first one really got me for
No,
sure.
I love
the
that
second
perspective.
one kind of, so.
I guess because this is our first time covering like a trilogy. Do you want to give like I know this is gonna sound silly, but rating the trilogy by each step. So, first film, what's the number? What comes to mind real quick?
Right away, I'll put it at like a 9.7.
Okay, second film comes out. What's the series so far?
9.
Okay, and the third one comes out.
I think you really like put it all together. I'll give it a 10.
Wow.
Wow.
I think that's Gastro's first 10.
That's his first 10.
I don't know if it's just because I just saw
Last
it right
episode
now,
was
but
my first 10, so that's the second 10 in the series.
You're right.
Second
What
10.
was that? The Defoe's?
no,
Harold
it was
Mott.
No, it's Harold Mott.
Harold Mott.
Harold Mott, that crazy guy. Anyway.
Oh, you know.
Oh, you know.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I guess I'll give him my rating right now at 10.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow, Castro. I'm shocked because our perspectives are very similar, and I'll get into that.
It's
But
just, man, it's because of both of you guys. First, I saw the writing, the story, and then the long shots, and then I'm just thinking as an actor, like, okay, these guys definitely rehearse a lot.
Yeah.
That's not acting. That's actually just having the script in the back of your
Seeping
head,
into the
having a
character,
good
I
connection, and then just flowing with it. That is just so amazing. Like,
It was so.
actors, directors out there, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's something we all strive to do.
Yeah.
Like, to have that. What was it? The first one? 10 minutes? 12 minutes?
What, the first long take?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, the walk and talk. It was the bus one, right? I think that was in the first film. That was
In the first one?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the third one.
Oh, man,
the
no, like,
fir-
it was
that
like
one.
a 15-minute take.
Right.
It was like a 15.
The car ride, right?
It was like
Yeah,
15.
like
That's
8 minutes in, I'm
insane.
like, they're still going
There's
at
no
it.
cuts.
Yeah,
And,
and
me as
I
an actor,
think,
I'm looking like, did they mess up here?
Right.
Perfect.
and what's
Pitch
amazing with the films, and we'll get more into it right now, is the fact that there's so many beats in that one take. You're not just
You're not
sitting,
just in some
Yeah,
stagnant conversation.
Like, I mean, they always talk about the oneer from Goodfellas where he's walking through,
Right.
but really the action is just go and get to your
Yeah,
table, and then
and
follow
think about
these
the one.
beats.
Or was it
and-
what, maybe 2
Yeah.
minutes, 3 minutes?
Yeah,
But
then
what do you mean, like, it wasn't just the conversation?
no, what I'm
he's saying
saying
that as
is
a
that
positive.
there's so many beats in there. There's up notes, there's down notes, there's
yeah.
conflict.
Just in that
Like,
conversation
and,
alone.
and that's so natural towards,
yeah.
and like you said, an actual relationship and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And that's
Before we dig
yeah.
deeper, rating.
Yeah, exactly.
rating. Am I gonna do the same thing that he did, or just the
Sure.
whole thing?
Yeah. Well, however you want.
So
However you want.
really, the first one's a bummer. I'm gonna give it a
What?
2. I think a 2's my
Nah,
first.
be real.
Listen, Gene Siskel, I'm gonna need you to
I'm
tone it down a
still
little
shocked
bit.
at the
The
material.
second one, even worse. We're gonna give that a 1.9.
You're killing me, Small.
And then the last one, which, let me just say, there was no hobbits in the
Dude, I'm
third
gonna
one.
take a shot for that, man. Take a
Um,
shot for everybody.
A shot for that. No, okay. So it's really hard to like summarize it all. And I think what makes it so hard is that it's a film that hits so close
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
And not even that
Reach.
it's like trying to like hit really close personally. It's just the fact that it's so relatable and everything.
What's funny is like the first one is like if you've ever just you don't even have to be in a relationship. If you've ever just met someone you truly connect with, or what's more, if you've ever dreamt about meeting somebody that you truly connect with, that's what the first one is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the third one, you're like, oh man, I remember having that conversation. I know and we'll
Yeah.
talk about it. But anyway, sorry.
The
you
first
get to
one, I absolutely loved. I mean, it's to me, if I just took that one by itself, it executed a romance so well, and I have not seen another either like romance movie or romantic comedy or anything like that that's executed itself so well in as far as making you really care about these characters for completely different reasons.
Beautiful.
And then just wanting to see where their relationship develops. I mean, that to me, it's got to be a 9 at minimum, because it's so good.
You don't like the endings? the way they keeps it.
Well, okay. No, that's the thing, and I mean, it's something that.
I'm sorry, you 9 for the first one or
9 for the first one?
All right,
first one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go beat for beat.
Gotcha.
So, but as far as what you're saying, no, like I've talked before that a film that can make you feel something, and not only that, but really just a physical reaction to whatever you're experiencing, good or bad, is amazing. In general, you know, just that film can connect you.
For the second one.
So for the first one, 9.
Okay, my bad.
Oh no, for the first one, 9. I was talking about like the endings that it just really you're attached. You're like, what is going to happen?
My apologies. Yeah.
But for the second one, I mean, it's kind of, you told me, and we'll talk more about it, that there was never meant to be a second one.
Right.
And it's really surprising because when you see how well he finessed it in, you're taking something that was already perfect, and then just you're adding this new texture to it. I think what makes that one high, but not as high as probably the first one, is the fact that it's kind of.
Are we talking Snoop Dogg high, or are we talking Tommy Chong? Or
we're talking Snoopy Goes to the Moon.
Oh,
the animated series that you can now watch on Apple TV. Not a sponsor.
Jesus in a spaceship, huh? Okay.
No, I'll say that
not
one.
As high. Second one, not as high.
Second one, not as high. I actually want to say somewhere around like maybe an 8.75, and it's just because I think that it's really, really good in tying itself into the universe. But it's kind of like,
I have a theory about why the second one falls short, but we'll get into.
Well,
that.
no, I think it's because it's a film that's meant to answer the question of the previous one, but what still keeps it high is the way that it makes you kind of re-fall in love with the characters and adds a whole new texture to everything. The last one is incredible. The dialogue is at the best it's ever been.
Right.
The performance is best they've ever been. The shots...
When do you ever say about a trilogy the third one's the best one? You never say that.
Yeah.
Good thinking about me, that's true. Sorry, I don't know, but yeah.
I don't know. I thought
I'm not saying that's what you guys are saying, but to me, it's my favorite, and I've said that.
Yeah, no, and
with the original.
It's easily now my favorite. But that one, I'll put it at 9.5. It's so high.
Okay.
It's really hard to knock it down any lower.
So you're average there.
That's
and math nerds don't.
9.1. 9.1.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin, quick, put numbers on the screen.
Speculatively, what's your collective?
Oh, collectively, because it's so high on the first, like the bookends are just so strong.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say it puts itself at like a 9.3. You know,
That's fair.
Just because those two are so strong.
Yeah.
The second one by no means is a throwaway movie.
Not at all.
Not
one
at
on
all,
its
not
own.
at all.
There's so much that could be taken away from it. But yeah. So 9.3 for the whole series. Carlos, numbers for each. I know you can give an explanation, but I guess we'll jump straight into the podcast. But numbers for each, and then numbers for the collective.
Listen, if you see me a little worked up right now,
it's because you're drunk.
It's because I'm drunk. But I told my wife this. I was in LA last week, 2 weeks ago. I'm gonna use this as an analogy.
Small flex.
I know. No, I was in LA and for about a week, and I had a little bit of free time. And I wanted to go to this bookstore called The Last Bookstore. If you're in LA, you know what this bookstore is. So naturally, if you're in LA and you're a film nerd, you're gonna go to the film section of the bookstore because you're in LA and they must have fucking gems. But I thought, you go to your local bookstores and you can find gems, right? Like especially like shout out to like Literarity and some of the great local bookstores like not Barnes and Noble, like local bookstores. And now this is the smack dab in downtown LA. And I thought, I'm going to go and I'm going to have to dig for some cool little film. I'm going to get some film books, a couple film books, just like at our local bookstore.
Couple gems here and there.
When I tell you I was overwhelmed with the possibilities, like with the amount of film books that they had, I called my wife and I was like, I need your help. I'm like freaking the fuck out. The amount of film books that they have in this store is insane, and I'm gonna spend like our life savings if you don't talk to me. Literally, no. I'll ask Austin. Austin, right? I sent Austin a picture of my fucking cart, and there was like this cart. You pull
I think
I
remember.
I might have sent it in the group, right? This fucking stack of books, and I left. I ended up still spending like almost $100 in books. And there, by the way, that doesn't sound all that much because books are expensive. No, these books are like $2, $5, $7. So like,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. I walked out with some gems. I use that analogy to compare to this because when you ask me about the Before trilogy, it's overwhelming at what can be talked about when it comes to these films.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Where the hell do I start? How the hell do I'm genuinely overwhelmed about
That's
what
how I
point.
am.
I'm afraid I'm going to miss points. Let me put it to you this way. So I'll preface my ratings with that. The Before Sunrise.
Just a number.
Man.
Give it to me
Before
straight.
Sunrise, I'll put it at a crisp, hard 9.7.
Wow.
Just like me.
9.7. I would genuinely put it at 9.7. And let me tell you why. It's the fault of its own, like, it's the fault of its own being. Because the reason it doesn't get those 0.3 at the end is because it does exactly what it meant to do. And it's manipulating you to love these characters in moments and hate them in moments. And agree with them in moments and harshly disagree with them in moments. So to the point where, like, you start thinking about Jesse's reluctancy or like his, you know what I mean? Like, you start thinking, like, why is he being such a douchebag? Or like, why is she being so harsh? Why can't she be so sweet or nice or warm?
Negative,
like, or what? Or by the same token, you flip the coin and it's like, man, I fucking love how, like, independent she is. I fucking love how, like, she has her own mind. She speaks on certain things. I love how sexual she is. I love how she could just talk about sex and not be ashamed and not be frightened of having this conversation with a total stranger, by the way.
Yeah.
And not be afraid to walk off the train. She's ballsy, and I love her for that. Jesse, I love his intellect. I love how he's a wonder and he's a dreamer, and I see myself in Jesse a lot. And by the way, Ethan Hawke is pretty much doing an impression of Richard Linklater, by the way.
Really?
This is very... I mean, I don't want to say it's autobiographical, but Ethan Hawke straight up said, I'm playing you. Like, I see you in this. And if you see an interview with Linklater, it's fucking Jesse, man. Like, it's the haircut. I mean, everything is fucking Linklater.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. 9.7 for the first one.
Okay.
I think it's very interesting. Very, 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 very interesting that you guys put the second one in the slump. And I have a theory of why. The first time I saw it, I felt the exact same way. I was like, all right, found the weak one. This is the weak one. And then I screened it a second time. And when I screened it a second time, I can't explain why I had a vast fondness and better appreciation for the second one.
Why?
So I'm genuinely, I can't tell you why. I just picked up on a ton and I rewatched it and I'm like, why did I think this was so bad? I mean, I never thought it was bad, but I was like, why did I think it was weak? This is really strong. Here's the thing. I think the reason, my theory, is it's a product of its time. Shout out to Ricky Rodriguez, fellow Tower writer-director. We have this conversation a lot about how rom-coms caught a bad rap. The reasons rom-coms caught a bad rap was because of the early 2000s rom-coms.
Okay.
We're talking How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Okay,
we're talking Ghost of Girlfriend's Past or whatever. These, like, Jennifer Gardner, fucking Catherine Bigelow, whoever, not Bigelow, I'm sorry, she's director, Katherine Heigl, like all these fucking bad rom-coms.
Yeah.
Gave people a bad taste in their mouths for rom-coms. Unless you're a girl who likes novellas and fucking soap operas and bad, just not bad shit, but bad shit. It's just a different thing. It's totally different. But when you go back to, like, the inception of certain I'm not going to go back to, like, the 50s. I'm talking, like, Rob Reiner's When Harry Met Sally. I'm talking, like, these gems, these fucking great... The Before trilogy, and I love what Ricky says about that. He says, it's because they're not rom-coms, man. They're love stories. Ultimately, they're stories, they're romance dramas and romance comedies, but they're not rom-coms. Rom-com is almost a dirty word in the Tower vocabulary now, because the early 2000s fucked it up. And the point I'm getting to is, this film was made in 2005, I believe.
The second one?
Yeah, what's 9 years after 95? 2004.
Yeah.
Right?
2004. So
you're dead smack in the middle of the format of bad rom-com. So it felt, in its structure, it was shot digitally. It was kind of Willy Wonka-esque colored to a certain degree. Like, it felt dreamy because you're in Paris, right? But it felt like it's constructed a little bit like the rom-coms of that era. don't get me wrong, it doesn't lose the
I have an
format.
argument for that.
Yeah,
You know
it
what I
doesn't.
mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't lose the format. It doesn't
doesn't.
lose the dialogue. Doesn't lose the chemistry. But
Okay.
it's like if this movie's gonna make any type of box office money, and I'm not saying Linklater was aiming for that. I'm saying he's thinking, well, if we're gonna try to get people to come to these movies, we kind of have to be with the times a little bit. And I think that's what happened.
That's what
I think it's a
influenced him.
product of its era. So that's my theory for the second one.
Okay, and
the
number?
rating, I'd still put it above a 9, 9.3.
Oh, okay.
I'd say
Okay.
about a 9.3. It's still the weakest of the three in my opinion, but again, that's to the fault of the era.
Oh, yeah.
That's not to the fault of the filmmaker or the writer
That's the fault of what?
of the era.
Like the time.
Oh,
time.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So the third one, I can't say enough about the third one. The third one's always been my favorite. It punches the hardest.
Yes.
It's not trying too hard. It's very organic. Every
Yes.
scene is my favorite scene. It's a hard 10 for the last one.
Wow.
Very much so. Very much
Those
so.
hard 10s.
Very much so.
Wow.
I think I'm partially responsible, and I'll get a little selfish there. I'm constantly preaching the gospel of romance and dramas in cinema, and that comes across in like musicals too. And I'm when you preach the gospel that way, I'm like trying to get as many people on board with me. And when I'm making films, I'm directly influenced by that. So naturally, there's a DP. I need to screen A, B, C, and D for you because of this reason and that reason. Castro, this actor really does this in this film, and we really need to screen this, and that film because we're going to set it up for this next picture we're working on.
Absolutely.
So I'm very happy that you guys rate it so highly, and you really do like. But that's exactly what I want people to do: is like curate cinema that you really give a shit about, and that really makes an impact on you. That makes you feel something. And the Before trilogy doesn't fall short of that. That's my long spiel for my ratings. But collectively, I think I mean very high, man. This is. When people think about great trilogies, they think about The Lord of the Rings. They think about Back to the Future. I certainly think about Back to the Future.
I think about Sharknado.
Isn't there like 7 of those?
Yeah, bro. But
Yeah, but really everybody only stops at the third one, you know?
You know, I know Eric likes to cut off Aliens at 3. Like the
Oh,
one James
yeah.
Cameron did, or Fincher, I think it was Fincher.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, he's like,
I love them all.
Well, I mean, he does right, as a fan, but he's
Yeah.
like Alien 1, 2, and 3, and then we kind of don't
I
talk about
feel
the
where
rest
he's
of
going.
it.
Yeah.
But anyways,
As a trilogy,
As a
it's
trilogy.
so solid. I mean,
is.
I like even when you do these number ratings, it's so hard to like, you know, try to say, oh, this one is better in this sense or this one's better in that sense.
right.
If anything, if anybody listening, these ratings are kind of like just on an emotional kind of feel.
we're definitely on a high of we just screened before sunset. Before midnight.
But yeah,
Before midnight.
this trilogy, it does something so special in the fact that, you know, like you were saying, it captures a feeling and it's able to really connect with everybody. I think it's really difficult for somebody to watch one of these films and not have like a little hit to the chest, kind of like, oh, okay, like I didn't feel that, or I can't connect with it. Like, it's so hard.
I think the strongest part from all three of these films was the dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
The dialogue is just like I know that people hate when it just goes on rambling and rumbling, but when you start hearing that this is like true relationship problems, you know.
Mumblecore is one thing. Like, look,
Exactly.
we just screened, and I love Mumblecore. I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I love dialogue. We just screened Clerks, because we want to.
The new one?
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
we want to go watch Clerks 3 because you had never seen Clerks 2.
I had never seen Clerks.
Oh, you had never seen any of the Clerks.
Any
You're
of the
right. You had
first
never
one?
seen any of them.
Like
Even better.
they
That's cool, though.
Austin and Carlos were super excited to go watch Clerks 3, and
Because they only screened it for like 2
Yeah,
days or
and
something.
they-
it was like a week.
okay.
Some
they
shit,
they
shit.
said like, oh well, you know, we're gonna go see it, and I said,
Yeah.
oh, I'll try to tag along, and they're like, oh, I think we're gonna rewatch all of them, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll try to join in. And I joined in, not seeing any of them, and wow, I fell in love with that. That's another series to talk about.
That's another
But,
podcast. But
Mumblecore.
Mumblecore. Clerks is nothing but straight Mumblecore, and I love Kevin Smith. And by the way, Kevin Smith was directly. Yeah, we'll be. Stay tuned. Kevin Smith was directly influenced and inspired by Richard Linklater.
Oh, really?
Not of the Before trilogy. I've never heard Kevin Smith talk about the Before trilogy. He talks about a film called Slacker. Slacker directly involved. Kevin Smith tells this great story. He went to the Angelica Center to screen Slacker because he saw it in the newspaper. This is in the middle of the indie boom. This is Rodriguez and Tarantino and Linklater and all these guys blowing up.
I don't remember Slacker.
Kevin Smith kind of came right after that. And Slacker is such a phenomenal film. For a first feature, I could get into a whole conversation about Linklater, and I did with Elizabeth. You remember this? We spent 20, 25 minutes at least on just that episode with Elizabeth talking about Linklater because they're friends. We'll talk about that later.
Fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating. But I will say this. This is we kind of got into the first emotions of it all, but
yeah.
Collectively, I really put it high, man. I really put it at a really high, probably 9.7 or something collectively.
Yeah.
And transitioning a little bit into the actual making of it all, right? Linklater, it's so impressive, man. Linklater is like this dude who isn't talked about amongst the Spielbergs and amongst the Camerons and amongst the Scorseses. He's not talked about. That's true. And I kind of like it that way.
Why?
I kind of like it that way because you know what? I put a post up recently. I was on a big Linklater kick the past like 3 months. And I realized just recently I had a weird epiphany type of thing that as a filmmaker, I never felt like I found my voice, you know, like you can track whoever your favorite director is. You can track back to who their heavy influences are. You can tell, like, he watched this, and then that influenced this, and you can kind of do that. Mm-hmm. And Spielberg always said this thing that really impacted me, which is like, Marty can only make a Marty film. Hitchcock can only make a Hitchcock film. He's like, but me, I'm more of a chameleon. Like, Spielberg can make... We know what a Spielberg film looks like and feels like now, but he genuinely can make anything, right? I identify with Linklater in the sense that, like, for two reasons. Number one, I wish if I could make any type of film, I'd make Richard Linklater films for the rest of my life, for the rest of my career. Number two, he doesn't take himself too seriously, man. I love that. I think that's what's beautiful about Linklater is he's low key. Where you were going with that. Still lives in Austin. He still advocates for the Austin Film Society and the Texas Film Society, and he keeps himself low key, but he gives a shit so much about cinema, and you see it across the frame.
It's all about cinema, not
so
Hollywood.
I as much as I love Marty and he's my favorite filmmaker of all time.
I was about to say that.
No. One thing is loving a filmmaker and a storyteller because of what they do and who they are. Another thing is identifying, like, I think I'm a Richard Linklater type.
Okay.
And that's the first time I've ever said that about... I think first time I've ever said that about myself as a storyteller. Like, if I'm like anybody, I want to be like Linklater, like as a storyteller.
And then what's Marty and Scorsese?
Well, Marty's like the unattainable, like, I'll never be Marty, and I'm fine with that. That's great. I'm happy. I'll never be Zeus, but I'm happy being Hercules.
I like that. I get that. I know it.
I think it's really interesting that you identify with Linklater in that way because I feel, how would you say, there's some people that I idolize a certain director because of how much they're able to spread out, diversify. Like everybody looks up to Spielberg for that reason, being able to be this chameleon that can make romance, can make a comedy, can make an action film, can make a musical most recently, and does amazing. But I think it's really special that you've enjoy that purity, and I mean with this series, that's what it is. It's this purity of having an idea of what the tone is, knowing what they're going for. They're not trying to be over exaggerated about it, and they just know how to execute. I mean, Linklater
he has this reputation for if you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend you watch Boyhood. Not for its gimmick.
I gotta see it.
Not for its gimmick. Boyhood, if you know, is a film that he basically filmed over like 13 years. In real time.
Oh, that's the one.
That's
okay.
Boyhood.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure I'm getting the number wrong, but he filmed it over like 13 years with the same actors: Patricia Arquette, Ethan Hawke, Elton. I think his last name's Coltrane. Ethan Coltrane. I forget the lead, but he was a new actor. And
shout out to Coltrane.
Kid. His last name's Coltrane, I believe. But he's an Austin actor. He's been in bigger films since. But Linklater, what I think is interesting about Linklater that way is that, you know how some people will like make this big picture, like, you know, the term one for them, one for me, right?
Yeah.
So Linklater's one for them kind of film was Dazed and Confused to a certain degree. But Linklater's so amazing that off the like cusp of Slacker, He literally went into the studio and they were like, this film was amazing. Won a ton of awards, went to Sundance, sold thing. What are you going to do next? What can we like invest in? And Linklater literally was like, I kind of want to make like, I want to make a 1970s like drive and talk film. Like, I just really want to make cars. I want to make American graffiti set in Austin in the 70s.
Huh.
He didn't go in with a script. He didn't go in. He just went with Dazed and Confused. Before Sunrise, Dazed and Confused was 93. Before Sunrise was 95.
Mm-hmm.
He went from Dazed and Confused to Before Sunrise. That's the first thing, right? One for them, one for me. But you know how some filmmakers will like make like, I kind of want to just make this little passion project on the side.
Yeah.
It's not going to cost so much money. Linklater does that always. So the reason I brought up Boyhood is he basically said from the studio, he's like, I'm gonna shoot so many days a year just on Boyhood. I need $150,000 every year.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I think I read that.
So with Before, it was kind of the same thing. We're gonna keep the budgets low. We're gonna work with the same actors, and it's gonna be my like middle grounding film before I get to the fucking like School of Rock. Before I get to Burning. It's gonna be my like middle grounding film.
Okay.
That is so special to me. Sure, filmmakers we admire do that often. They'll go to their passion projects, right? But Linklater's notorious for making like, I'm gonna make this small, $3-4 million film that I love. I think the budget collectively for the Before trilogy, and I could be wrong, we'll fact check this, but was like collectively less than 20 mil for all three pictures.
Wow.
That means 5 to 6 per film.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you like the actors didn't even take a lot 'cause they liked the film. They liked the script. I bet.
Yeah,
Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, not only are they amazing, but this is their brainchild too. They executive produced the last 2 films, and they co-wrote the last 2 films with Linklater. So they were heavily involved. And if you see, there's making of documentaries, especially Before Midnight. They're basically in a hotel room, all 3 of them, just writing, pitching ideas. No, that line doesn't work. This feels natural. Maybe that doesn't. Maybe we tackled on this. They're heavily involved. And what's more, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy both became directors.
They did.
They both directed independent films on their own.
Did they ever date?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
You know that usually happens because that connection.
Chemistry. No, but when you see them talking to each other, I don't think they did. I don't know for sure. I don't think they did. When you see them talking to each other, they legitimately have this banter of like a divorced couple that still love each other.
Yes.
That's the banter they have off camera.
That's how it works.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's really special in that way. And by that, I think Linklater's a special filmmaker and somebody that I really want to highlight on this podcast more because I saw his films. Naturally, I love Dazed and Confused. I just always want to watch Dazed and Confused and go back to it. But the Before trilogy is my favorite thing of his. But I mean, I saw Waking Life recently. I saw Tape recently. I rewatched Bernie. I watched
Bernie. He did Bernie.
He did
I had
Bernie.
no idea.
Wow.
Bernie's terrific.
I love Bernie.
Apollo 8.5. I saw so many Linklater films recently that I
just a new respect for
a new respect and a new appreciation, but also like Linklater to me is like that hidden secret that I want to tell people about, but I don't want other people to make him, I don't want people to make him cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't want him to be overpopularized and be this guy.
What I'm amazed with is, and it's unintentional, at least with the Before series.
Right.
That little note as far as like I had an idea of making a second one. It was always the first one. Right. And then later on, people asked about it, and then he thought of making the second one, and thought like, well, how do I explain that they've been gone for so long? And I mean, the second one's wonderful, like that for accomplishing that goal.
Yeah.
But
in real time, by the way, 9 years between each film.
Yeah. But it's amazing the amount of patience to make that film and still being in love with it. Because I mean, we've known we've known having projects and being super into them,
and then mid production,
and then and then something happens and you have to let the project go. And for creatives, we all know that it's not like you abandon the feeling. It's just that project's not right for the time. It just doesn't flow right now. But absolutely. to be invested this long in a series and to be able to still capture the same light. I mean, if you watch them all in one night, if you take the time to say, I'm just going to watch the 3 before, it's not long, 6 hours?
That's another thing. I had a conversation really recently with a buddy. Shout out to Oscar for my movies mayhem. So I'm watching the Universal Classic Horror Monster. Each film is about an hour 10 for the Universal. And he tells me something that really made me think about that. He's like, I've grown a better appreciation for 90-minute films that can really punch.
Accomplish.
The first 2 films are 90 minutes. The last one is an hour 50. An hour 49. So you talk to a douchebag like me who loves 3.5 hour dramas.
Irishman.
Or just like anything that's Kurosawa or even Hitchcock did a really good tight 90 most of the time, but like a Kubrick, a Kurosawa, a Fellini that'll make 2.5 hour pictures. I love it, and then it enthralls me, but very rarely will I find a 90-minute good, crisp 90-minute. And these are exactly that. You know how impressive it is to a filmmaker like me to make a tight 90 minutes that's so effective, so punchy, and so enthralling. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
What I was going to add on to that point is that it's amazing that they're able to accomplish a tone throughout all of them that carried over like 18 years, and he did it with no problem. The actors, everybody were able to keep that tone where, you would think, and you even kind of touched upon, maybe they lost a little bit of that tone or the feeling in like 2005 and all that kind of stuff, and they got drowned out.
Also, Ethan Hawke, I know, listen, Julie Delpy comes from literally, Julie Delpy kind of hit it big. Her as I understand it correctly, she got her big start by doing a Godard film, a Jean-Luc Godard, which, if you don't know French New Wave cinema, he's the free French New Wave cinema guy. But she made a film with him in his later years, got very famous for it, and then became a pretty prevalent French actress. She didn't really do a ton in the States other than her own films.
Yeah, I never saw her again.
The film she did direct was basically a kind of a before trilogy type of thing. But set in New York, set in Paris. One of them has Chris Rock, isn't it? Yeah, definitely comical. Adam Goldberg is one of them.
What are they called?
I think it's called like 2 Days in New York, 2 Days in Paris, something like that. And I'd love to talk to Julie about that, man. Like, she became a director that way. But I just bring that up because I don't know how successful she was in that era of 04-05. What I do know is that was the Ethan Hawke prime.
Yes,
that's when he was fucking Ethan Hawke.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
2000s for sure.
Yeah, so to me, it's interesting for him to come back to even his haircut yells Hollywood in the second film. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's very George Clooney-esque type of thing. So it's very interesting to pay attention to this in that era and say, wow, they survived, because my theory is that anyone who made a film in that era that's successful. Coppola made a couple in that era that was successful. Scorsese made The Departed, got his only Oscar in that era. Like, they are the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question. Since I know that he only wrote the first one and the second and third one he wrote it with the
and the first one he co-wrote with another writer, and she's a female. Let me get her name.
I don't want to. Way more sense.
I don't want to
keep going, Castro, while he's finding it.
No, it's just what was his? Did you ever find out what was his inspiration? Did he go through something like that?
Yes. Her name is Kim Krizan.
I knew it, man, because this is way too real.
Kim Krizan was his co-writer for the first one. They both created the characters. What's interesting about her is this is the only thing she ever wrote. Yeah, pretty much. And she was basically an actress that, I don't know if they dated. Maybe they dated. Maybe they were. I don't know. What I do know is that she made cameos in 3 or 4 of his films.
Okay.
Starting with Dazed and Confused.
She was in it?
Yeah, she's kind of in moments. She's the writer.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Linklater literally had an exact same thing. I don't think it was a train. Man, I'm a little foggy on the memory of it. But Linklater met a girl in a bookstore, if I'm not mistaken. And was there with his sister in the same town. By the way, as the first one. What's the town? What's the name of the town?
It's not Vienna, is it?
It is Vienna. I think it is Vienna.
Okay,
you're right. So he met a girl in the bookstore. Met a girl in the bookstore, and then kind of told his sister, I'm gonna kind of pursue this. I kind of want to talk to her. And started talking to her, and then they were like, "Hey, well,
Like a predator.
Yeah, like
You're
predator.
describing a predator.
Let's go. Let's go.
Nowadays, it kind of feels like.
Are you down to go have a cup of coffee? And sure enough, they go. But it didn't stop there. They had this 24-hour date, just like. And
I knew there was
to
something
my
real about
knowledge, they didn't pursue it past that, and that explains if you think about the ending of the first one.
Yeah.
You know, it was supposed to end there.
I loved it.
You know, so yes, to answer your question, there's so much more to the story that I'm missing. I promise you. But just search that interview. He does talk about it. Like, I did actually.
It was really funny.
He even names her like.
I gotta see that interview.
I screened this my third watch through of it. I screened it for my parents.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and
you were on the train.
No. I
This
rewatched.
is your fourth watch, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I rewatched the first one on a train.
You did.
That's fun.
You actually did. That's great.
Which is the best way to
Oh
watch
my
it.
gosh, you're kidding me? I'm jealous, man.
You know, and it's funny because I watched Interstellar on a plane, and every time it got turbulent in the movie, it hit a little harder. If you know what I'm saying.
You think you were going through a wormhole? Is that what?
There was a worm going through. Well, anyway, moving forward.
Yeah.
I showed it to my parents, and I love showing films to them because we obviously come in.
I'm surprised that they still let you screen films for them after at Eternity's Gate.
I've screened so much weird crap.
But they don't see it like you see it, right?
No, absolutely not.
For those who watch our podcast, we are your friends who get the cinema nerd kind of want to just keep talking about it.
Yeah, we bite our tongue because
if we leave these doors and these curtains, we get the outside world, and people aren't like that, and they don't understand that.
Exactly.
My parents are them, and I love you, Mom, if you're watching, and Dad.
No, but, that's for all of us, man.
When they saw it, it's funny because my dad, he's super practical, so his impression, like if it's a great film, they'll love it. But his impression was like, well, that doesn't work, does it? And I'm like, well, what do you mean, Dad? And he's like, well, yeah, if I went to your mom on a train, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Do you want to just get off? She wouldn't have gotten off. I'm like, Dad,
that's how he said it.
Dad, that is the worst execution I've heard of in my entire life. But, you know, of course, and my mom says it's romantic and all that, but I think it's really funny. If you look at the situation, well, here, I'll end on this note.
No, yeah.
They made a dream or a fantasy that at the end of the day you could believe and you could connect with. And even if it's not all real, the fact that for a moment they could make you believe that, that's incredible. Right?
That's all I was going to say. I was just going to piggyback off the fact that the first one has the most magic in it, the most heightened sense of reality to a certain degree. It feels like a music without the music to a certain degree. Like, you're walking around this beautiful European town. It reminds me a lot of like Fellini films, like La Dolce Vita, you know, in front of the Trevi Fountain, and Rome at night, and beautiful like European cities. It just reminds me of that a lot. And how else can you put? You know what's great is even if none of this happened, like you say, even if none of it happens, what if the first one is literally just the thought of what happened inside his head?
I remember you mentioned.
What if he looks at her and thinks she's a beautiful girl and daydreams this whole scenario? That still would have made it for a great film.
No, and
you know?
Oh man,
Austin. Okay, never mind.
What?
I just want to see if we can talk about
he's
how
still
you thought the
dreaming
film
about
ended.
that girl from Vienna.
Right.
Let Austin be Austin.
No, I was thinking like, should we mention how he thought the first scene ended?
No.
But
Oh,
let's just
Oh, my
I'm gonna
goodness.
ruin
Let's
so much for
No,
people
no,
if I do
no.
that. Please.
He's okay.
I'm messing around.
So that way we don't ruin it for anybody.
Yeah.
I'll take the bullet. So.
No, you don't have to.
No, that's not important. It's really not
just being
important.
messy.
Okay, fine.
To keep them at
Well,
attention.
anyway, for our Patreon members at Tower Prod, Austin, put it on the screen. Tower
I just had to
Prod
just, you know.
/
OnlyFans, right? Yeah.
Patriots fans.
Patriots fans.
No.
By the way, before we move further, Austin,
Wait, I gotta-
ratings.
Sorry, I did this part.
We didn't ask Austin for his ratings.
Oh.
Austin's about to hit us with some heavy knowledge. It's building in the background. The theater is pounding. The
just hear the
floor is
sound.
This really
thumping.
is like
Will you shut up?
Look at the sound.
ratings.
Yeah.
Most
It's
beautiful
a
song.
segment we do on the show.
It sure is. What are yours for the Before trilogy?
I don't have any
specifically?
segments on the show.
You,
Yeah, dude.
Austin, there was a whole intro to this episode of you setting up things and being all excited.
That wasn't me.
Remember that? Guys,
Yes.
rewind back to second 3.
Exactly.
Wasn't that jolly?
It wasn't
Ratings
me.
for the
I
Before
outsourced.
trilogy.
Yeah, the first
Oh
one.
my-
Rating, yeah, take it like how we did it. First, second, third, and then collective.
You know, just spit out numbers and we'll figure it out.
Pi squared.
Fair.
Oh, okay,
Fair.
give
Yeah,
me a
3.5.
second.
Square root of 81.
6
So that's
point-
at least a 9 point. It's a 9 something
Y'all
pi
suck at
squared.
math.
You went to college, right?
3.14, so
I'm going to
Yeah,
college, bro.
it's 9. It's like a 9.2.
No,
All right.
you
that's-
went to college, right?
Hey, guys! Since the last episode, I have a bachelor's.
He does. He graduated from. We all have
I'm
a
in
bachelor's in
so
the same
much
thing.
debt and can't get a job. It's
And then
great.
let's reel this back in. Austin, first one, 1 to 10.
I wasn't prepared to answer any questions.
X gonna give it to you. Thanks.
Sorry.
What comes off the top of your head? Like, what would you rate it?
a 9.6.
The first
Dang.
one? Hell yeah.
You heard it first from
Producer extraordinaire.
and editor extraordinaire.
Right.
Also lover extraordinaire? Question mark. Austin.
Second one.
Just
I'm sorry.
who gave him a microphone?
Who gave him a whiskey? Give me that.
Give me that.
We're gonna need
Sure.
I'll
some,
tell you when
we're
I've
gonna
got
need some
cheers.
music in the background. We're gonna need
Oh
some.
shit! He finished. He's gone.
I'm gone.
He's gone.
Okay. I think that's a very. Wait, I thought that was his rating for the whole thing.
No. This is the first one.
What was it, collective?
Oh, that's for the first one.
Okay.
This
second
is the
one.
intro of the episode. No, we already have an intro. I'm sorry.
Second one.
That was the second one?
Jeez.
10.
What?
Okay, I'll explain it.
The second one?
Yeah, go ahead. Try to explain it.
Try to explain the
This is his
original
rating.
thought. He hasn't had yet.
Yeah.
Austin,
10, are you serious? A 10?
Yeah.
The second one's your favorite.
When do I ever joke?
You heard it first.
this guy's, please close up on this one.
I'm seriously putting a camera on you next time.
No.
Second one.
A 10.
What? That's your favorite
Did I
one.
stutter?
Okay, shut up.
Austin and I usually have pretty polar opposite thoughts about most films, which in a good way. So, okay,
There's been 3 10s on this episode.
none of them for the second one.
None of them for a second one.
Okay. And the last one?
Wait, so I don't even get to talk about the second
You
one?
do,
while I
you
give
do,
it a
you
10?
do.
Yeah,
but
but did you wanna explain
your
The
rating?
last one?
Yeah.
9.8.
Wow. Okay, and then collectively, the Before trilogy, what would you rate
A
it?
10.
A 10. Okay. The
You
second one's your
heard it
favorite.
first.
That makes no
The
sense in
from
my
our
second one's your
Lord
favorite
and-
one.
What?
Why is the second one your favorite
Delo.
one?
Just shut up.
It makes a lot of sense to me on why it is your favorite one, but I'll let you.
I think it was maybe like a 9.5 until the last line was spoken. All I can ever remember.
Jeez, that
Why?
ending.
Why?
That ending does bump the film
Yeah.
up
Wait.
substantially.
I was trying to. What was the last line?
All
The
I,
last
all
line
I
of the
remember,
second film.
Yeah, see, that's all
Oh,
I
baby.
remember.
You're gonna miss that plane.
Oh baby, you're gonna miss that plane. I know.
And then-
you know what I remember the most
And
is the
then
way me
Ethan
and
Hawke-
Ricky reacted when we screened it.
Oh, that's a good point. That's
Me
such
and
a
him
good
jumped
point.
up and we're like, what?
That's
no, put on the third one now.
such
Let's
a
go.
good point.
Yeah.
It has the biggest cliffhanger.
That is
And-
true. I
and it's
forgot about
funny
that.
because
And it's so rewarding. It's
It's
so
the first one
rewarding.
too, dude.
it's because in the second one
The first one has a good cliffhanger, like a hopeful cliffhanger, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The second one, you're like, oh, is he gonna fucking go for it? He's married. He's got a kid. What the hell is
She
going on?
has a cat.
She has a cat.
oh no, the cat.
Oh man, that's
pretty good,
so
yeah.
such a good point. That does bump it up a little, man.
I was
Oh
also-
God, that's why I kept asking you guys. Like the second one, I'm trying to.
I was gonna bring up a point earlier about the second one too. A big.
Nobody asked.
I asked.
What's big?
No, a big charm of the second one is playing on the theme of magic, right?
Sure.
Where we talked about in the first one, you know, he's more of a cynic, and I mean they're both super young,
Yeah,
but he's
yeah,
more of a
yeah, yeah.
cynic,
Yeah.
and she believes in more of this like love and magic and things blooming.
Right.
And then the second one comes around, and that wasn't a drive fault. No, the second one comes around, and you see him being this person who's just full of love and magic and thinking of things kind of colliding together and wrote a whole book about it. And her being this kind of cynic that now she's more in tune to the world and her views have changed.
Is interesting. This is one of the films, one of the series, to piggyback off your point, where you hear what they're up to now.
Yeah.
And you're like, of course. Like, of course he became a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course he became a writer. Of course she became, like, an environmentalist or whatever she was.
Yeah.
You know, like, of course she's fighting for her rights. Like, wow. And I think that's interesting. That's interesting because it does create a certain charm. But at the same time, you know what I think is interesting is, like, the first one has this magic and hidden reality to it, right? And then the second one's like, yeah, we both kind of have, like, we've had pretty shitty partners and we've had pretty shitty lives, but
hits you on the
feels
note
good to be in this moment with you right now.
Yeah.
It just hits that note of, like, growth. And I mean, all of them hit this personal chord because we all go through periods where we're, you know, young and kind of, I guess, dreaming and hopeful of the world ahead. And, you know, even, like, when you find love, it feels so much more impactful.
I think they were both college students in the first one. They were both kind of barely getting set up. Right?
So you think Ethan Hawke's character at the end changed?
At the end of the 30?
Yeah, towards the end.
That's the thing.
She was giving up.
No, she has a line. She has a line that said,
this is what it is.
She had a line that said, do you remember that letter you wrote to yourself? Like, and saying...
But it wasn't working. You know?
Yeah. No. But saying that, like, oh, do you remember what you wrote to yourself for when you turned 40?
Yeah, where you're like...
Yeah.
And then, you know, Ethan jokes around and says, like, oh, hey, I hope you're not divorced.
Yeah, the first time.
And she says, no, I read it and I heard all your... Yeah, like, hopes and dreams and all that. You're still the same person. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting because
we fight for that. We fight to retain a lot.
Yeah, there's so many messages in the last film that put all these bookends. I feel like it shows that even though their mentalities are different, the struggles are different. Now they have kids. Now she's trying to jump into a career that she feels is going to be rewarding and satisfying. Ethan's trying to, like, he's teaching a class, but he's still this dreamer, this writer, but now he's in the practical world more. Right. It still has that question of, like, well, did they ever really change? Like from the beginning to the end? And I think the answer that they kind of gave there with that note is that, no, you don't really change. Your problems are different. You grow in a more mature way, but you're still the same person at your core.
Sure.
And her, at the very beginning, even though she's more of a dreamer and believed in love and all this kind of stuff and changed around, she's still that person who would like to believe that. She just struggles, and then also she's still the fighter who's going to stand up for what she believes in. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I mean, I think it's interesting to a lot of films, if it's something we aspire to be as storytellers, is for us to, without getting too political, without getting to hold up a mirror against society to a certain degree, right, and say, I hope you kind of see yourself in this. And that's just on all anthropological basis, whether you're making a film about love or war. I think the point is to kind of hold up the mirror and say, I really hope you connect with this, and you can't connect with it if you don't see yourself in it.
I have a question.
You know?
Why do you think there was this heavy theme of sex throughout all the films?
Because people are so afraid to talk about it. I think that's why.
I also think...
and in relationships, you get to a point where you just fucking talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's... The relationships that I think end up... it's a comfort thing for sure. It's a confidence thing for sure.
There we go, yeah.
It's a confidence thing for sure, but I also think it ends up being a pivotal point of, like, yo, I'm going to call you out on your shit sexually if we're going to make this work. Like, I'm going to call you out on your shit, on what I like, what I don't like. Are we doing it often? Are we not doing it often? Should we change it up? Should we spice it up? Am I having fun? Whatever the case is. Yeah. You have to talk about it if you're going to be in a relationship for so long. I really genuinely think that's what it is. I spoke about this a little bit. We talked about the last one. There's a very... it's not a heavy sexual scene. It's a nudity. Pretty prevalent nudity. And you watched it, spoilers. They're having a full-on conversation while Julie Delpy's character, Celine, is topless. Yeah. And look, as douchey as this is going to sound, when you've watched enough foreign cinema, not classic cinema, because classic American cinema is pure. Foreign cinema doesn't give a shit. And that's why it broke the form, especially in the 60s and the 70s. And Americans started catching on, like, oh, maybe we should, the hippie era, and we should start showing drugs in the films, and sex and violence. And that's really where it caught on. But the French have been doing it since the 40s, you know? So I bring that up because when I love watching, you know, Mexican cinema and European cinema, what they do is they don't glorify nudity like it's this naughty thing. It's a part of life to them. That's culturally how they look at it.
The human form.
They're not like, oh, no. They're like, yeah, I'm naked, and that's kind of how things go on a daily basis. Like, why are you get naked in front of your partner pretty often?
But
like,
do you feel like the film, because it's prevalent throughout all three of the movies, especially in the first film, when they're trying to genuinely get to know each other, the first question he decides to, like, he says, hey, I think what we should be doing is we should be asking each other questions to really get to know each other.
Right.
And his first question is like, tell me about your first sexual feelings towards another person. Yeah. And he's kind of, you know, he's being cheeky and being Freudian.
It's one of two things, right?
Wait. Okay, go ahead.
No. Just to like talk about that. It's one of two things. Number one, we're all thinking it. When you have a meet cute, when you meet somebody new, you're attracted to them. That's a sexual feeling.
Natural.
Okay.
Right? It's very natural. It's a very sexual feeling. Number two, it's kind of his clever way to break the ice, right? And you kind of if you go that far with somebody, you kind of know, like, they're either going to walk away from this or they're going to, and if they divulge, we're going to have a good conversation.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have ill intentions, right? If you're not, if you're some creepo that fucking, you're going to come across as that.
Definitely, when you watch the movie, it feels like a bold move.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go ahead.
No, that's all I wanted to say. I think that when it comes to the, yeah.
I was going to question it and say, did you feel that it was this notion from Linklater that love and, like, sex are always kind of intertwined? I mean, we watch we watch romances or, like, romance films, and there's always a sense of, like, loving somebody enough that you would give your being and your soul and everything like that. And this one doesn't stray away from the common ideology that to love somebody is not just to love them maybe romantically, but sex is definitely embedded into that. But
so what's your question?
I don't know. Anyway, next on the WatchTower,
I think the point you're trying to make, I think, is that they're
what's the significance?
They're intertwined, and it has to be discussed whether it's when you first meet up with each other, or you've been in for 18 years.
Is it a message? Is that why?
I wouldn't go that deep. I think it's just a part of the faction, right? Like, I think it's just like, right, sex is a part of the whole.
I think the reason why it comes up and why I asked it is we get the character in the third film who he's just always horned up, and he's always like.
But isn't that a 40-year-old man in general?
No,
man? Like,
but
you've been married for so long, and you're like.
The thing is, they could have made that character anybody. They could have made him a writer. They could have made him a cynic.
Greek guy. The Greek dude. Yeah.
They could have made him a cynic towards love. They could have made him a like an artist who feels like that's not the proper way to describe things. They could have changed up the character, but they made it very obvious that this character, his whole being, is wrapped around that. Like, I mean, love can't exist without sex.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, look, but here's we laughed about it when we were watching it today, but like, he wasn't the most well-off guy, and that came across right away.
Yeah, because he makes bikes. Don't listen to him. He makes bikes.
That's literally the line. Yeah. Listen, I think that's what's interesting is like when you live simple like that. I'm not saying
isn't bike riding.
No.
Bike riders.
Listen, Lance Armstrong, that's not quite what we're talking about right here. But what I mean is,
Mr. One Nut.
When you I'm not saying the man is a simpleton, by the way. That's not what I'm trying to say here. What I'm saying is when you live simply, you enjoy the bare minimum motions of life. They have kids. They're married. He's in his 40s. Hey, man, let's do it. I think middle-aged men get to that point, right? You get to that point where
veils come down.
If you're still attracted to your wife, you kind of always want to fuck. And what's more is like,
that's beautiful.
Men don't change in that regard. I don't care who you are. I've been with my wife for 10 years now.
Are you allowed to
Married
still say
for
I'm with my girl?
I'm a girl.
No,
No,
but
I was
it's
gonna
true
say
what
girl
you're
because
saying.
like we've been together for 10 years and married for 2 years. So like, if you're in your 20s, you're always kind of horned up, right? That's just a fact. You get to your 30s and life hits you and you're working on other shit and you're building a life, but you're still, and you get to your 40s and you're like, I kind of already built a life. I just want to fuck. Like,
That's very true.
I mean, that's just
very
normal
true.
in men. I would assume, and Julie Delpy's character, like I said, never shied away from the sex conversation.
She did
so
not.
And what's more is the Greek version of them, quote unquote, they didn't shy away from the sex conversation either.
From what I know, as far as
And
like
if
this,
you guys notice, I'll just make this one last point before we switch over. If you guys noticed, my every scene is my favorite scene in Before Midnight, but my favorite scene, dialogue wise, is the lunch scene
Which one?
when they're all around the table.
oh,
All
it's
of them, all of the
amazing.
couples.
Yes.
Such an amazing scene, and it's this round table of perspectives of different ages,
Exactly.
different sexes. But you have the grandson and the daughter, young generation, always fucking.
Yeah.
That comes across on the screen. They're always fucking, like to the point where she's like, I love the line when they're in the kitchen, just the women, and they're having this conversation, and she's like, "Oh, negotiation with men, negotiation with your husband. Oh, I remember that, this and that." And then she kind of goes up to the young girl, and is like, "What's your form of negotiation? What's your love language for negotiation with your man?" And then she's just like, that's all she does, and like that, she kind of walks away, and they just joke around that way. But young couple, newly dating, always having sex. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Middle-aged couples constantly talking about the times they ever had sex. They either had sex when they met and were in rooms for 3 days
Yeah,
straight
yeah,
fucking,
yeah.
or obsessing about why they're not having sex and how they could be having more sex. The older couple who have had the whole perspective of life and they have dead spouses are like, I kind of just miss them. We had this whole fucking life together, and this is my perspective on life now. Those were the 3 iterations in this fucking. You had the 3 generations.
Yeah, that was heavy hitting.
Really
That was
special
on
and
point.
open perspective for everybody. Like it is very special. I'm trying to connect that to your question. I think it has to be about sex to a certain degree.
Yeah, and
Why
I mean,
shouldn't it be?
I don't know how to make, I guess, kind of the question or the topic more concise. Okay,
Sorry about that.
on
Has
a
it been a while?
pause.
You're right. Is that-
This is a note to say that we're trained professionals drinking real drinks.
It's not iced tea, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
God, I'm so sorry.
Anyway, this is sponsored to you
Cheers.
by AA. Get help today or end up like us.
Oh my gosh, I'm taking my sweater off. So, Austin, how are we doing on time?
Sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
No, that was great.
Austin's letting me know how we're doing on time.
Fire right there, dude.
Okay.
The answer is we're doing
The
good.
dog killer is out there.
The dog killer is out
I'm
there, and
getting
we're
close.
going to find him.
Don't
We're-
forget, she has a cat.
Oh shit!
Somebody.
I'm
No,
allergic
listen.
to it.
I've had the pleasure of deep diving into cinema of all types, and these last couple years, the pandemic really opened those doors to that.
Yeah.
And this is one of the only, like, it's gonna sound so douchey, but this is one of the only American like set of films that
Hits hard.
feel like a true good, great contribution to cinema.
Oh.
And we didn't have that for a long time. The 90s and the early 2000s were shitty for cinema. They just were.
Yeah, right.
And by the way,
10
a
things
lot
I
of
hate
a
about
lot of
you.
the politics have a lot to do with that. A lot of the transition of cinema and technology had a lot to do with that. The making special effects, the transition from film to digital. I mean, we were going through some crazy shit in those times to make cinema to begin with.
Yeah.
But a true cold contribution to cinema, I think the Before Trilogy really has that going for it. And you could sit. This is why I love Criterion. Criterion will take, In the Mood for Love, this fucking masterpiece of a film, and Korean cinema, and then bring the Before Trilogy, American made, American based. 2 out of all 3 films take place in Europe. Oddly enough, they do.
Yeah.
Right? So like, but it still feels like true cinema, true pure cinema without trying to be snobby.
At all.
And let me put it to you this way.
It's not being snobby at
Sandra, my wife, loves to say, like, I'm a general audience member. I'm not going to see films the way you see them, just like your parents.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
But Sandra will say, I enjoyed it. Or, no, you know, it was a little, I fell asleep through it. Or, kind of like, we screened the Marilyn Monroe biopic, Blonde. She fell asleep halfway through. I was enthralled the whole time.
It's okay, Anna. We all like it.
Anyways, she got through the Before trilogy pretty swiftly.
Okay.
But didn't obsess over it like I obsessed over it. She was just like, that was good.
Even with you, like... Oh,
yeah, no. I think she was just like, that was really good. I enjoyed it. That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, I mean...
I think just when a film's good, it's good.
It's good, yeah.
And it's
that's
like,
my point. That's
even
the point I'm trying to
even
make.
my like family, just that little side note. After watching it, they had a huge conversation about like the state of relationships and what it means and if it was real and all this kind of stuff. And of course, like after a while, you could see that train derailed. And
but
you could see that they were having a bigger conversation. But it's the fact that the film's so good that it was able to do that. You know, at the end of the day, cinema lovers, non-cinema lovers.
Yeah.
The film, it's fantastic.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
I have to say, usually pretentious film snobs will like overhype a film and choose film. Yeah, with palate. Yeah, you're right. You develop a palate, but most general audience members will be like, "What the fuck was that?" And that's fair. That's been the long life conversation. That's what keeps cinema alive, in my opinion, is that conversation. But it's very rare when a film can do both.
Yeah.
Very rare, in my opinion.
It's very rare when 3 films
that's a good point
back to back can do that. I mean, I think this really is a gem. I think in cinema history.
Yeah.
And
we should talk a little bit about the B characters.
Okay.
Every side character in this is pretty entertaining. I mean, look, from Before Sunrise.
From the first one?
I always think back to the poet.
Yeah, that's the first one I thought of.
No, the one
he was so skeptical, but he was like, let's just try it. Yeah.
No, the one I think about is, yes, that's me. I'm the cow. Moo. My play tonight is about me being the cow.
And they're like giving him a flyer to go watch the play tonight.
Yeah, that's my favorite character. Shout out to Hansel and Gretel or whatever their names were.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Hell yeah.
We've had a little bit of drink in us tonight. I'm sorry.
All the side characters to me
are I mean they're pretty amusing and they're pretty memorable. And they're side characters.
No, but it's like they're obstacles to tackle a facet in their own personal journey.
They're meant to be used as devices.
Yeah.
Literary devices.
Yeah.
Literally. They're not. I mean, I guess they are.
For sure,
because, I mean, going back to the first one, there's the gypsy who believes in magic and all this kind of stuff.
That's right, the palm reader.
There's the poet
that,
who believes in profound meanings, and Ethan Hawke's constantly arguing against all of that stuff, and that shows you that kind of like the economy of their two characters. In the second film, I'm trying to think of the side characters, but the biggest ones for me, as simple as it sounds,
who was it?
The driver. Though we don't hear much from them, if you think of the symbolism behind that, it's somebody who is putting you back into the practical world.
By the way, the fight in that car, man, the conversation that happens in the back of that car when they're driving her home.
Oh yeah.
But oh my gosh.
But think about it. Going back to that metaphorical device. The driver is always throwing Ethan Hawke back into the practical world that you can only be a dreamer for so long before you have to do something about it. And you either have to like suck up your guns and say, hey, things didn't work out. I know I wish they could have, but it didn't happen. Or you are invested in the dream. And
you guys ever watching the final scene of the film of the second one and are like... Did he call the driver? Did he cancel? Is the driver still waiting for him outside?
Imagine us back in like 2005 like... When's the next one?
The driver. No, but seriously, and naturally in the third one, the side characters become much more prevalent, much more important to the story, and much more. It gives you much more perspective. Like this couple who are on rocky trails are looking at other couples that are either succeeding or failing, and it's like, well, shit, what am I gonna do?
Or the young couples that.
And by the way, I think that what's so interesting about the third one too, and I usually fucking hate this.
What?
I usually fucking hate plot. And what seems to be the driving force for the entire film is the opening scene. I dropped my son off at the airport. He's going back to his mother in America. She fucking hates my guts.
Mm-hmm.
But he's about to go into high school, and I'm going to fucking miss it.
Right.
And that's the driving force for the entire picture, if you think about it. Like, that's the plot device to be like, all right,
That's going to be the conflict.
And what don't you like about that?
I usually hate that in films. I usually hate when
But
plot...
not this one?
No, absolutely not. No. This is the film that does it right for once. You know, plot... I usually love character over plot. This had both, and the plot genuinely drove the characters.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, right? It created fights. It created something in him to want to get closer to his son. I mean, look, I'm a product of divorce. I'm going to connect to this shit a little more. We're going to connect to this shit a little more.
Yeah, no, dude, yeah.
You know, just to be able to see, like, oh, yeah, man, like, I was the kid on the plane in between both parents or between both borders or whatever. And it's pretty interesting to see the other side of that. You know, we never got to see our parents go through this shit directly. I mean, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, it's just a ton of layers. Like I said, we can make this a 2-parter, fucking 3. We probably should have done one film per podcast episode.
No, I think
there's just so much to unfold, so many layers to these pictures, and
I'd like to add something in just to kind of help tie it together.
Yeah.
It's 2 questions because I feel like whenever we watch movies, it's not just a hey, I'm just gonna throw this on. I'm folding clothes, whatever.
Right.
I was gonna say, when do you watch this film, and why should you watch this film? And I wanted to start with Castro, and we can work our way down, and that's our big thoughts.
And what? When and
why? So when
I think definitely the when is definitely somebody that's been through a relationship. Because if you haven't been through a relationship, you're just gonna see it as another romance, whatever, right?
Yeah.
What's the second part?
Why
watch this film? Why watch 3 films? Why waste?
Dude, even if you haven't been in a relationship, I think if you see a film like this, it'll give you a quick, a really good glimpse into
the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, everything.
Beautifully put, man. It just like the relationships. Like, I hate to say it, I'm one of those guys that, you know, starts beautiful, and trust me, it's there's an ending somewhere.
You're famous for being quoted in one of your films as saying, "Dude, relationships are shit."
Wall to wall.
Yeah.
Wall to wall.
By the way, add to that, I've never. If you ever see somebody yell at the screen, and it's not like fucking scream and you're telling them not to go through that door or whatever. You ever see somebody yell at the screen the way they yell at a Jerry Springer show? It's probably pretty good, right? You probably have that person hooked. Castro was fucking yelling at the projector screen, like
so many relatable
it was
things.
so great.
Man. I've had that conversation before. I remember
Yes.
this. Like, you know,
I love all the moments when it's the third one, all the beats,
hard.
and it's like, why is she hitting so hard? Where did that come from? Why is he hitting hard? I've said that. I shouldn't have said that. Like, all those were like great.
I love what you said at someone is like, my dumbass would have walked away right there.
Exactly. Like I've seen this couple, like I've seen a couple like this argue. Like that was me. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Carlos, is it fair to ask you when and why to watch?
Oh, man, I mean, listen.
Don't see it depressed. Don't see it when y'all.
Oh yeah, don't. Oh yeah, don't see the third one if you're like
if you're a middle-aged married man.
Hey, you know, I heard this is a really great romance film. I just wanted to like sit down because then you're gonna like not be arguing afterwards, but feel like you just did.
Yeah, don't do that.
Listen,
Avoid that.
I don't have I'm gonna be that douchebag and that. I don't have an answer for you. I think.
If you can't answer the first one, when? Why watch this film?
Well, the win is any time. I mean, I think you guys are right. If you're going through a certain season in your life that you just got through a breakup or something like that, maybe do yourself a favor and don't watch the last
give yourself
one.
Don't even watch the first one. Imagine a breakup.
I mean, that's true. You're kind of falling in love again with the. Oh yeah, listen,
Stacy.
The win is
pointers if you do see it.
Yeah, the win is whenever. You know, this is a beautiful picture, and I'll constantly want to screen this for this.
It's a must watch.
I know I hype films and maybe overhype them to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But this one is not overhyped in the slightest. And what's more is like I only tend to do that when one of two things happen. When I genuinely have been not wanting to see a film or I want to screen it for somebody else. And if you want to screen a film for somebody else, I think it's a double-edged sword. If you genuinely have a burning desire to rewatch the film, that's telling you something. If you genuinely have the desire to show it to your closest people, that's another thing. Yeah. That's the double-edged sword for me, and that's the why.
Yeah,
that's the why. I mean,
that's pretty cool.
I really wanted to screen this. I mean, I watched it with Sandra for the first time together, and we both looked at each other in the moments. We're like, "That's you," or we both looked at each other like, "Oh yeah, that's great. You remember when we first met? We did this, and we did that." Like, we both went through those motions together when we saw it. And then the next times it was screening it for Austin, screening it for the Law, screening it for Castro, screening it all together. Like, it was a special thing to be able to fuck, man, I'm so happy you guys now have this one crossed off your list because it's...
I appreciate you.
I haven't felt that way about a film. And look, as much as I love The Irishman or something like that, right? I remember feeling this way about, Ready Player One, oddly enough.
Oh, hell yeah.
I remember feeling this way most recently about Licorice Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
I so love Licorice Pizza and want to.
It is a throwback.
We should cover it on
Vintage.
this podcast. But if I'm being honest with you, in more modern times with newer cinema, it's very few and far in between where I'm like, I want to fucking go back to the movies and watch this again. Number one, number two, I'll usually tell people yeah, I can watch it. I don't have that burning desire to want to screen it for somebody else. The Before Trilogy is that. That's the why.
Okay.
Good.
When and why?
When and why? I like films that give you a minute to think back at maybe your own decisions and where you're at.
Reflective.
And I know, right now, we're about to hit 5 years in our relationship.
Wow.
With me and Ash, and not as long as these two characters have been going on through their thing, but it's so interesting watching this film, I guess, right now, being, in the middle of a relationship when everything feels like it's going well and everything feels like it's progressing forward, because it shows those real, I guess, fears and tensions that aren't dealt with.
Sure.
And it's not there's no be warned, if you don't have this conversation now, things will go terrible. It's just more of that real reflection of I do worry about that. I do think about that. I sympathize so much with what is it? Julie Delpy.
Julie Delpy.
I tried. I sympathize so much with her character in the last film where she talks about
Celine.
Thanks. In wanting in motherhood, and this idea that
every mother must feel this way.
that whole talk
even
about,
if they don't say it out loud.
Yeah,
she's speaking.
And I know that you being married now, there's that conversation of having kids and all that kind of stuff, and that whole dynamic is so interesting to both parties and thinking about it at any stage, because even if it's not brought up at the when you first start dating.
Can I say something and I won't, babe, I love you. I won't say too much because it's between us, but
not anymore.
Not anymore. No, but listen, the third one I identify with because I married a beautiful, strong, independent woman that's very intelligent, that fights for what she thinks is right. I mean, I see Celine and Sandra so much. And I see Jesse in me so much. Jesse, I mean, listen. Jesse is the writer, creative, goes on walks, contemplative, loves books, loves art, and knows and feels true in his heart that his art, his career is not a hobby. That's me with cinema. My filmmaking is not a hobby. It's what I love. It's what I hope to do the rest of my life. It's not that Sandra ever sees the opposite, but when you get in fights, you throw at each other those fucking daggers, right?
That's what I was saying.
I think Sandra and I have crossed through those moments where we respect each other and love each other and support each other in everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an easy fucking target when you're in these fights to be and not that she's ever told me you're not a director or whatever, but not that I've ever told her you're not an intellectual, which is probably the biggest.
Yeah.
That's never been the case, but boy does it get pretty damn close to these conversations, right? So I just wanted to add to that we genuinely have had those conversations of well, if you get this job, how will that affect me? Or if you get that job, how does it affect you? If I go to LA for 6 months to shoot a film, if I go to fucking, we're on location for 3 months, how does it, I mean, we've had these conversations.
Yeah, I've started having, now that I'm freelancing, I've started having the conversations with like Ash as far as like, us saying, what if you get a big, like, let's say like a TV show gig, one season, you're gone for like, 6-7 months, and it's going to pay really well, and you're going to come back with a fat paycheck, and it's going to like take care of a lot of things, and maybe even like prepare us financially so we can be stable. Would you take it? And the answer is, it's difficult, but it's always no, because it's understanding how damaging that can be, and it's looking at the vulnerabilities of a relationship.
Thinking about your partner before yourself to a certain degree. And
but even if, like you were saying, she was saying like she understands when you're doing it. It could help us.
No,
you still went.
Yeah, because they bring up a line in the movie where she's saying like, if you saw me now and we hadn't got together, like, would you still come and talk to me and all this kind of stuff? And then he messes up and it's like, yeah, you failed the test. I just wanted you to say something romantic, and you didn't do it. And
you haven't seen that.
That is real.
I know that in like the conversations I've had, she's like, I'm always gonna be here. I'm always gonna be understanding. There's no matter what, I'm gonna be patient. And it's like, it's not about what you say, and it's not about what you're thinking right now. It's about what the real consequences of our actions take. Look at Ethan Hawke's character. It doesn't matter that you feel like you're this dreamer type, a poet writing about these big ideas. I mean, every film you hear about Ethan Hawke's book ideas, they're these overly elaborate, just insane,
and they're good,
insane stories, but at the end of the day,
very
there's
contemplative, very
but at the end of the day,
crazy,
there's this smackdown that's kind of like, okay, we get it. You write books about people who can't remember who they are, and then they end up talking to people who remember everything. But what does that have to do with our kids right now? And this smack of like reality. And I think my why, back to our little cap on the film series, is it's definitely a film that will bring up a lot of questions in your own life, regardless of whether you're in a relationship or not. And it'll make you kind of think about those in a deeper context and in a much more palatable way.
There's a line in Before Midnight that he says something along the lines like, if we're ever going to truly get to... I mean, look, they've been together for 18 years and they still don't know it. And I know that. I've been through that. He says, if we're ever going to get to know each other on a real basis, we probably have to know ourselves more.
Oh, yeah.
And that's so big, man.
Yeah,
the older you get and the more you've been in a relationship, the more you realize, like, I will not be able to be the best partner to my partner unless I fucking know what I'm wanting out of life.
100%.
And it's just so real. So real. Austin, your when and why.
Watch his when be 12 p.m. and his why be 1 p.m.
Man, what is that, death?
Care to repeat yourself?
Your when would you watch this film and why?
When?
Yeah,
I'm
like
forced to watch it for
any
the
specific
podcast.
season in your life.
And why? Because I'm just here so I don't get fined.
My job lit.
There you have it.
Way to let the people know you're...
There you have it.
For somebody.
Austin, speaking, though his parole officer said he wasn't allowed to today. Thank you, Austin. We love you.
Meet me outside.
How about that?
No, when I'm feeling depressed.
Really?
So I can feel more depressed.
Oh, is this like a cathartic, sad movie? Like
This is a film you watch when you want to slit your veins. I got you, pal.
Yeah, exactly.
And why would you tell people to watch this film?
Remember, down the street, down across. Oh, that was good. That to cut that off.
I think it's one of the few dialogue-heavy films that people will actually enjoy.
Ooh,
like a general
I like
audience
that.
member.
Yeah.
Because it from the first film, it captivates you like immediately. The dialogue.
Absolutely.
I'll add one last thing.
I did not give you permission to add it, so.
Can we put a compilation of all the times you've made me sad today? There'd be at least 5.
Just today?
Yeah.
Just today.
We could probably do a whole episode.
All
And
around
we
me
will.
are familiar faces. I was just gonna add that for filmmakers, the why I'll say it shows you the power of good dialogue.
Absolutely.
And for actors too. It's amazing that you didn't need glitz or glamour. You didn't need people dying. You didn't need somebody getting punched every 5 seconds to have an amazing film that's just two people walking. And for cinematographers and directors,
listen,
I'd say the same.
When it comes to that, though, what's so interesting is usually you want to either nitpick or like celebrate. Holy shit, look at this camera movement. Holy shit, sure, 12-minute takes, whatever. There's nothing all that groundbreaking about what he did here.
Though it's impressive in its simplicity.
It's impressive in its simplicity.
Is there any, well, I'll say you, Carlos. I know that we're running out of time, but at least a bookend note that you'd like to put in for this film in one word or less?
What? My cup?
We're being told by our producer
now we're getting another shot. I'm kidding.
We're getting.
No, that's not gonna happen, pal.
That's not happening. That's not happening. Stand by, good folks at home.
Yeah, listen.
Remember, 2 words or less.
2 words or less? Are you serious? Look who you're fucking talking
we're
to.
Really
we just
out of
talked
time.
about how good dialogue is.
Don't be like Joe
really
Biden. 2 words. Live for free.
In fact, if you can do it in an interpretive dance, I'd appreciate it more. The podcast people are not going to appreciate it, but all the video people watching on YouTube.
The people on TikTok might. No, no. Listen, I just all I have to say is
Waka flocka, flocka waka.
For shizzle, man.
Good night.
You will regret watching this picture. Whoa, Daddy, no! We're joking.
Here we go.
Who's this who?
Straight line.
This is mine.
Straight line?
Okay.
So, no, this is mine. That was yours. He gave it that one first.
Austin, I just saw you in the background. Did you make jungle juice? What is... Oh, no, I'm sorry. You gave us a... Never mind. I'm sorry. For all the people watching, our producer loves us.
Oh, I know what he did. Anyways, so listen, just to wrap it up.
The book notes. The book notes.
I really think this is a film that, to a certain degree, and it's for any season of your life, but it's something that you will not regret watching.
Absolutely not.
And it'll stay with you.
It'll stick with you. You will
for the rest of your
think
weekend.
And rethink about this film constantly, whether you're a filmmaker or not, whether you love cinema or you don't. You're gonna think about these conversations that they're having.
And if you think you're alone in a lot of these relationship problems,
oh, so good.
Watch this film. You are not alone.
So good.
I just had a phone call with my girlfriend and told her I loved her like I was gonna die because this film brought out a lot of tensions we didn't need right now.
Yeah.
Man,
great
it
film.
feels so good to be back.
It feels so great.
It feels great to be back.
Just kicking it.
Now we have to put in our obligatory sponsorship ad. Buy Velvet Curtains. They're
Just
the best.
Gotta have a budget, because if you're the lao and you
know,
this curtain right here.
Do not ever send the lao to buy curtains.
No, they start up high,
ever.
go low. You know, don't just go with the high.
For anybody watching,
I know the bitch that make these rugs.
For anybody watching, I hope you enjoyed our new look.
Yeah. I love it. It's so great.
I bought this shirt a while ago. This is where most of the budget went.
And you were saving up for today? I guess that's what you're trying to say.
And,
Listen,
we're broke.
Watch the Before Trilogy, Richard Linklater. I mean, I know this was my pick, and say what you will, but this I'm very happy that I got to screen this for these guys, and I'm bringing it to your attention because it's such a beautiful series of pictures, and everybody everywhere should watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it just starts off with watching the first one. You watch the first one, trust me, you're going to bench the second one and the third one. And by the third one, you might be crying.
But you'll want to go back to the first one and do it all over again.
Look, I know this is me talking, and I'm that asshole, but...
We know it's you talking.
I genuinely was at the table scene at the end of the film, of the last one before midnight, and I was like, How long do I have to wait till I watch the first one again? Like, I genuinely wanted to revisit those characters at that point in their lives. So
yeah,
great film.
Great film.
Do we know, gentlemen? Do we know what we're screening next? I know what we're doing on the 11th.
Well, I was about to say, do we want to talk about the future plans for
Yes.
WatchTower.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
absolutely
Well, at least
absolutely.
the next episode
Yes.
for sure.
Okay, me as the former president and now current reject of this podcast, I think
All right,
it's
so
my...
moving forward,
All right, we got big plans. The first couple things to note is that the TowerCast is going to be back. We have a whole. I'm not joking. We
a
have
week from this episode.
we have a week from this when this episode releases. We have a special episode with Elizabeth Aveyan that we interviewed her during the El Paso Film Festival, and she was just phenomenal. That, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be a 2-part episode.
And we also have the panel episode.
And we also have the panel episode from the El Paso Film Festival where I talked to a great, amazing deal of people: Elizabeth Aveyan, Chuck Horak, Drew Mayer Oaks,
Great filmmakers,
great
film
filmmakers, Craig
contributors.
from Zeiss. I mean, just a
nice.
great deal of people. It was a great conversation. Got all that for the podcast. We're gonna have that on the TowerCast in the upcoming episodes. The format hasn't changed. TowerCast, WatchTower, TowerCast, WatchTower. The only difference is that with TowerCast, we do have a great deal of pretty great guests lined up. We can't divulge that yet. What I can say is that it's not the easiest thing in the world to get these people scheduled. They're busy people. So that's just going to come we're going to kind of hit it hard as the punches come to us. So stay tuned, but please don't be discouraged if you're waiting for a TowerCast. I promise you it's coming. However, we do plan to be very much more consistent on the WatchTower again. We're back in studio. We're loving the location. What's more is we have a very cool partnership now with a brand new venue here in El Paso that I'm convinced is the reason why I think I'm in the simulation. Because it was made for me. It was made for us as film lovers. Aaron and George's Film Cafe has just opened up in El Paso, Texas, downtown on Texas Street, and they specialize in showing classic and contemporary films while serving some great deal of like food and coffee and popcorn. I mean, they're just great people, man. Rebecca and Douglas, shout out to them, the owners of the cafe. We'll be hosting the WatchTower podcast once a month from Aaron and George's Film Cafe live.
If you want to hear this banter
in person,
really close to you, you can do that now.
Yeah. In person, we'll be recording from the cafe live. There's limited space available. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the capacity is about 45
I don't think
seats.
I can get it.
No, you can't. But we'll record it for you.
It's going to be
We have
hurry.
a sign at the door to specifically.
We'll have your
If
picture.
you
let you
see
in.
me at that podcast,
I gotta
know
wait
that
for
I
you.
See the
snuck
dog killer.
He's out there. And
Well,
we'll
listen,
find him.
Aaron and George's Film Cafe will be recording their live once a month. We'll be promoting it on social media and our website pretty heavily as we get the dates. But we already have a date planned for November to be shooting our first episode there. The film we're going to talk about for the kickoff at the cafe is Hustler, which is Hustle.
Hustler, the J-Lo film?
I'm so sorry. I confused it. Hustle. Starring Adam Sandler, basketball flick, Netflix flick.
Juancho.
It's a great film, and we're going to talk about it. It's Austin's pick. And we're going to be doing that live at the cafe. Come out, talk to us about Hustle. It's actually a great picture. Man.
It's going to
Not
be fun.
Hustlers.
Huh?
Not Hustlers.
Not Hustlers, not the J-Lo
We'll
one.
talk about
that
J-Lo
one
another
later.
time.
All right.
But intermittently, if I'm not mistaken, next week we'll be talking about your choice.
Yeah.
Next, which we haven't.
Which
Yeah, we have.
Sharknado are we doing?
What are we doing?
All of them. It's an entire Sharknado dedicated. No, the film that I decided to choose because right now I'm on a big sci-fi kick is Ex Machina.
Ex Machina, you're right.
that's
24
right.
film
Ex Machina.
with a
That's
lot
right.
of questions and no answers.
And I know a lot of you out there love Ex Machina, so you better
Yes.
tune into
Yeah.
this because it's going to be good. And I haven't screened it in its entirety, so I'm very excited to get into it.
This was back in my days when, it was a lot more introspective, and it brought up a lot of questions about life and everything, and I think it's just a great film to talk about in its execution and also what it means for that topic.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who's been asking about the podcast and actually, listens been patient. We do this regardless of what kind of happens because we just love this, but it's great to see that people are coming out and they're listening, and we hope you enjoy the conversations, and we can't wait to have more.
Yeah, when I tell
on the
you
way.
that all four of us were literally rewatching old episodes the past few months because we miss it It's not just because we like the sound of our voice as much as as much as I'm the one saying that. We missed it so much, man. We missed doing this so much, and we hope to be doing it a lot more consistently.
We can't wait to share more great films, film recommendations. As always, if you bump into us or if you want to message us, let us know what films you'd like us to talk about.
Yeah.
If you have
Smash that like button,
something you'd like to
comment.
share, we'd love to see it.
Don't please spread the word. Please spread the word.
Spread the word.
Follow us on Instagram, the TowerCast Network, Facebook, Tower Productions,
Spotify,
our website, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you find podcasts. And we now have a TowerCast Network TikTok. So follow the TowerCast Network on TikTok. There's some pretty great videos already on that. It's
all thanks to Austin.
Yeah, Austin is killing it. It's pretty fun, man. There's a lot of fun to go into that. But I mean, what else is there more to say, guys? Go watch the Before Trilogy. Shoot us a message with your film picks. Castro is still picking, but I'm pretty sure I know what he's going to pick next.
And stay tuned.
Yeah. Keep watching cinema. Keep collecting.
Go to the cinema.
Home video. Post-pandemic, go to the cinema. Please keep doors of the cinemas alive, open. Please go to your local cinema and support. Thank you guys for tuning into the WatchTower podcast. Keep watching cinema. Keep supporting your local filmmakers. We love you. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Take care, guys, and
cheers, guys. We're back.
We're back. Love you guys.